Is that right?
For you?
We call to order tonight's meeting of the Portland City Council. This is our second regular meeting of the month, which action will be taken. At this time, I ask all of us to stand for the prayer and pledge by Mr. Corky Larson.
Heavenly Father, we're grateful for you tonight for your many blessings. We thank you for the rain that we've received to refresh the earth today. We thank you for protection from the storms that have taken place in many places too. We realize that we're living in perilous times, Father, around the world. Our soldiers, our servicemen and women are being killed by those of opposite beliefs. But we thank you that you can still protect them and keep them safe and bless them in their mission of providing safety for us here back home. We ask tonight that you'll bless each of the committee members as they discuss the various items that are on our list. And we ask that you'll guide and direct that the decisions that are made might be in harmony with your will for us and for our city. And we thank you in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Appreciate that. Appreciate your attendance and your support and comments from time to time. Thank you. So, next, roll call, Ms. King.
Vice Mayor McDowell.
Here.
Alderman Bratton.
Here.
Alderman Callis.
Here.
Alderman Coker.
Here.
Alderman Harbin.
Here.
Alderman Minnis.
Here.
Alderman White.
Here.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any additions, deletions to the agenda?
I'd like to add one item at the end to be fine, just discussion of the televised meetings if we could.
Okay. And also at the end, I'd like to just briefly talk about, met with Mr. Jacob about setting up some times for interviews for HR. So just kind of see when we can come up with some times we could maybe get together on that. So, does anyone else have anything on the agenda? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next we have part of our meeting where we have two public hearings on two specific ordinances, and then we will have a time in the meeting a little bit later where you can also make public comments to the council. The first ordinance is up. This is a second reading for public hearing. It's ordinance 12-36. This is property of Clay Haynes on Highway 109. It's actually a piece of property he has will be zoned from to RS from R20 to part of it to GCS and part of it to RM1. So if anyone in the audience would like to make a comment on this piece of property for this second reading, this zoning, we ask you to do so at this time and ask you to state your name and your address, please.
Mr. Chairman, I've been advised that that tract number 2, as described in ordinance number 1236, is going to be deleted from this ordinance, and no public hearing will be necessary as to that. That will be later discussed by I assume the Planning Commission, and so any public comments that you may have as to a tract of ground consisting of 5.90 acres will not be necessary. It's only going to pertain to the 24.3 acre tract, which is a rezoning from RS20 to GCS.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and I appreciate that, but if we have people that
Right,
come here tonight specifically for that purpose and they didn't realize that was going to happen, it may be very well for them to go ahead and speak their piece.
Yeah,
Well, they certainly can do that, but they may have to come back again if that later
Right.
does come back up.
Yeah, if any, I know some of you are interested in that property. If you'd like to make comments, you're welcome to do so at this time.
Thank you, Mayor Wilbur. My name's Kenny Klein. I live at 110 Bloomsbury Drive there in Magnolia Springs subdivision here in Portland. May not be available at a future date because I do a lot of traveling, so I guess I better say what I'm wanting to bring to the group tonight. I have had the opportunity to look over the map of the possible rezoning, and I want you to know that I have no problem with progress, and absolutely no problem at all with the property development. I've developed some property here in the city myself, over next to Watt Hardison Elementary, and I've got some commercial lots that I hope to develop in the future as well. I did feel I've been associated with this new road that's going to be coming from 31W across and tying back into 109. And I've been a supervisor for a pipeline company, and this road's going to impact all three of those pipelines. So I've been well aware of the changes in the route that this road's going to take. I pretty much expected rezoning due to that road, because I expected quite a bit of commercial property to pop up after this road is in place. So the issue that I had was not opposed to the 24.38 acre parcel. I think I fully expect that to be commercial property. I do feel that the 5.9 acres that were scheduled to come before the group tonight to change from R20 to RM1 is actually, in my mind or my opinion, a reduction in restrictions and not in accordance with the restrictions that are in that area. I know I bought a house there in Magnolia Springs. The subdivision has certain restrictions that protect property owners, and that's basically why I felt like I should come tonight. In my opinion, the RS20 tract should stay RS20. I'm opposed to making that change. So I also know that the adjoining landowners were sent mailings, and I feel that tonight there would be more people here in opposition if the residents of both of those subdivisions that are already existing were notified as well. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Klein. Appreciate you coming. Does anyone else wish to make any comments at this time?
I got a question. Is there a sign posted out there on the property ending zone change?
I'm pretty sure there has been on it.
The other day, there is.
Yeah,
There is.
pretty sure. I thought I'd seen it. Sometimes those get taken down. All right. Anyone else? Okay, the next is ordinance 12-37. This is where we are rezoning the land to get with current use on the west side of Highway 31W in Robertson County. Does anyone wish to make any comment on that rezoning? Anyone on the property on Highway 31W, the west side, Robertson County? Okay, if not, those two public hearings will be closed at this time. Next, do we have communications from mayor and aldermen? Does anyone have anything they'd like to say? I'd just like to say that last Thursday night, the Greater Nashville Regional Council, which most of you are familiar with, does some things for the city in different forms. They had a banquet, and on the wall there we got 3 awards for 3 different areas of the Cable Commission got an award for their innovations with as you see, the printed on the screens, the YouTube, being able to go back and watch off our website. So was tickled they got that award. Also, Public Works got an award for all the work we've done on rehabbing sewer lines, work at the water plant, some of the bringing things up to date with current. And then also got a joint one with the Sumner County, where the Sumner County, Portland, and the Friends Library is able to complete such a nice facility library. So just want to bring attention that we get notice on some things that we do around, and do appreciate those awards. So, and Thomas and Brandon and Janice and everybody involved. So. Does anyone else have anything? All right, next we do have another period of public recognition. If anyone from the audience would like to address the council on any item on the agenda. Would ask you to do so at this time. Keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Does anyone have anything they would like to speak to the council on tonight on any item on the agenda? Okay, if not, public hearing will be closed. We don't have any other business that I'm aware of, except at the end, a couple items. Mr. Doug Garner called for CAC. They have nothing for tonight. All right, we'll move right on in to Planning Commission. Mr. McDowell.
The first item will be ordinance number 12-39. This is an ordinance to amend zoning ordinance number 387. Without reading, it's not really a good summary of what the ordinance entails.
Would you mind reading 387?
I can read it. It's whereas the zoning ordinance for Portland, Tennessee intends to encourage desirable and compatible developments while permitting certain non-conforming structures and uses to continue pursuant to section 13.7208 of the Tennessee Code. Whereas the Planning Commission has duly recommended to the City Council that the zoning ordinance for Portland, Tennessee be amended as hereinafter described, and whereas the City Council has reviewed such recommendation and have conducted a public hearing thereon. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Portland that the within ordinance amendment is hereby adopted as follows. And it's Article 12, provisions governing non-conforming uses and non-complying buildings or other structures. Chapter 2, provisions governing non-conforming uses. This is 12-210, says discontinuance. Pursuant to 13.7208 of the Tennessee Code, when a non-conforming commercial, industrial, or other business use of land or the active operation of substantially all the non-conforming uses in any building or other structure or tract of land is discontinued for a period of 30 months, then the land or building or other structure shall therefore be used only for non-conforming use or for conforming use. Intent to resume active operations shall not affect the foregoing provision. This ordinance shall take effect from and after its final passage of public welfare requiring it. This is a first reading. There'll be a public hearing on it later. If anybody needs
Basically what it's doing is the General Assembly passed this year going from 18 months to 30 months. That's basically all you're doing is up to 30 months to get where it coincides with the Tennessee Code. And that's basically all that you're changing, which we've got to. So. Do we have a motion to get it on the floor?
move to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
Any other comments or questions?
I didn't understand the look of that.
Yeah, it was kind of,
What does it mean, like if a property's rezoned for a non-conforming use and it's not done within 30 months, it goes back to the way it was, or what's?
If the use, it was 18 months, anything past 18 months would not have to go back because it was non-conforming. This way you got an extra 12 months. If it's non-conforming, if they start use back within 30 months, you have to allow it go, and even though it is a non-conforming use. So basically what the legislature did was just moved it from 18 to 30 months.
I understand that part of it, it's the rest of it I don't understand.
Okay.
Just in
that's
case somebody asks me, I wanna be able to
Right.
explain it, and I don't
Right.
know.
And that developed from some areas, I think up in East Tennessee was primary where that was pushed, but it was passed for the state as a whole.
Am I right? Is that pertaining to buildings that are currently not within our design standards and things like that? If it's not occupied or if it's not being used for 30 months, then they would have to go back through planning?
Anytime within the 30-month period, they could continue the same use.
Right, they can resume usage of
Right.
it, but if it goes outside that 30 months, then they
Right.
have to come back through planning
Right.
and designs.
Correct.
I think that also has to do with uses, which is usually not design standards, that's
Right.
Zoning uses.
Right, it's
Zoning approved uses.
All right, anybody else? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Ordinance number 12-40, this is an ordinance to amend zoning ordinance number 387. And the first line, let me read this, is whereas the zoning ordinance for Portland, Tennessee intends to permit convenience retail sales and services, which includes personal care services. This was brought to the attention of the Planning Commission because it was a individual that asked about putting a tattoo parlor in the city, and our city ordinance did not address it. We didn't know we had no classification or zone for where that would go. So they went with the national registry that shows what those fall under, and we are just changing in our zone where it will go. It'll go with the same, in the same place as tanning salons and health spas, beauty shops, barber shops, nail care, all those kind of things. Move to approve.
Have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion or comments? Basically, just what you're doing is updating our ordinance to match the national standards of recognized business. Any other comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Ordinance number 12-36, this is a second reading. It has been a public hearing. An ordinance to amend the City of Portland, Tennessee zoning map by rezoning a portion of property at State Highway 109 North from RS20 residential to General Commercial Services, GCS, and a portion of the property of the said lot to high-density residential, RM1. Move to approve to get it on the floor so we can discuss.
I second.
Have a motion, have a second.
So how-
Discussion.
How are we gonna handle this tonight if they want to remove
I think,
the
from
portion
what
of
I
that?
understand, it'd be appropriate to have someone move to amend this ordinance as presented to delete the second parcel from any consideration.
The second parcel was the one that set off the road, correct? Or is that the one that was
Second
the
parcel
trees?
consists of 5.90 acres which is requested to be rezoned from RS20 to RM1. That's gonna be
Right,
deleted.
sit on the road. Be on the northwest side.
If I understood Kenny, he wasn't opposed to the
The commercial part of it.
commercial part of it. He was opposed to the 5 acres.
Right, and so that's what, we need someone to motion to take that out of this ordinance at this time.
And I don't blame him. You know, they've got some nice homes over there, and I feel the same way.
Let me ask a question because our city attorney brought this to our attention earlier. I hadn't heard that yet. Is this something that the landowner is
Pardon?
requesting be done right now?
Yes, the landowner came to me and said they wanted to withdraw the second parcel from any change.
If there's a change, does that lead to where there has to be another reading,
Well,
another public
Start
hearing?
all over. Would it permit?
It does have to start over?
On the
I thought
We
I thought we
removed it.
found out on second reading if as long as it didn't completely, if it stayed within the realm of what it was, you could go ahead and do that.
well,
I think this, since you're
I
taking it
think in this
completely
case
out,
here,
you're
we should have a
responsible on
second,
passing
another
it,
reading.
You would start, because it'd be a whole separate ordinance. It would be basically, that's right. If, the landowner is here and he would like to make comment, if it's okay with council, we'll let him, maybe that can clear some things.
He may
up.
want his representative, Mr.
So,
Good evening, council. My name is Clay Haynes. I spoke with both Mr. Freeman and Mr. Klein tonight. It's very important to us that we incorporate, that we're good neighbors and that we incorporate what their vision is as well, not just what our vision is. I did bring a couple of examples of high-density residential developments that we've done in Gallatin, which was our vision for the property. Before moving forward on that zoning, I do think it's important that we sit down with them, that we discuss this in detail, that we look at some elevations. And that's why we asked, and I asked to pull this back. But we are requesting moving forward with the general commercial services zoning plan.
So this would be something that might be brought up at a later date if
That's
community?
right, after a public meeting, and what I'd indicated to Mr. Klein, it was his desire to loop in the individuals in that subdivision. I think that's absolutely valid, and that's something that we're willing to do. So if we just chose to bring it forward at a later date, we would have that meeting first, and we would seek for their buy-in.
And let me explain the reason I'm asking that. It was my understanding from a very informative work study that we had one time from Sam Edwards, that when someone requested a rezone, or if they requested several different types of things from us, if we did not want to grant that rezoning, that it was wise that we actually made a motion to deny the request, because if they requested and we make no action on it, then it's automatically in so many days it's granted to them whether we want it to be that way or not. So since the property owner is asking to pull it off there, is that necessary to make a motion to not approve that portion of that zoning?
No. What I think you should do is move to amend the ordinance to delete parcel 2 from any consideration. Actually, probably it would have been better to have 2 separate ordinances on this in the first place, one for each parcel, but they combined them in the same ordinance and had separate changes. So in this case here, you're going to remove, or somebody I think should move to amend the ordinance to delete any reference to parcel 2 and any change of zoning pertaining thereto.
But he's applied for a zoning change, correct? I know he's withdrawing it now, but he has originally applied for it.
If I understand, he did apply for that.
And what he's saying is that if we take no action, then it automatically goes into effect.
No, you're gonna take action by removing it from the ordinance, though, from consideration, so that would, in effect, would be no action. I see what you're saying, if we take.
Right.
That would be no action.
In other words, they explained to us that that the vote failing wasn't good enough. You also had to make a motion to deny the request, and that had to pass for that to be a valid kill on the rezone request.
I see the point being made there.
If we deny that, is there a certain time period before he can apply for that again?
Lou may know that, the answer to that, I'm not sure.
Well, actually, by him withdrawing it, the council can't take any action on it. So.
Well, that's the reason I was asking, was it
your
at the
concern
request
is-
of the, was
your
it his
concern
request that we
goes
withdraw
away
it?
Because he's withdrawn it for any consideration. So it's not gonna pass because it's not dealt with, because the property owner has actually requested
He's
that it be
actually
taken
taken it
from
off.
the agenda.
But when he requested for it to be changed, and I'm not familiar with this, so what type of action would he have had to take to make that request?
Did you put it in writing or just verbally tell
But
somebody?
he just made that request.
No, I mean the original request to make the change. Would he make that request, who would he make that request to?
The planning commission was the original request.
And do they have to file that somewhere? Because
Our minutes will show that we're the final governing body, so that we can play. I mean, they make a recommendation, and this body either goes up or down with it.
I'm just trying to figure out if he needs to withdraw that recommendation formally as he made the request formally.
Well, he in effect is doing that because he's asking that this body take no action, period,
Okay.
as to the existing parcel.
And he's asking that in this public meeting, it's a matter of record,
Yes,
so I'm assuming that
and it
would
will
be
be a
admissible, right?
part of the minutes of the body.
And maybe whoever makes the amendment, state that we ask this to be deleted upon the owner's request.
I make a motion that we delete the second part of this ordinance at the request of the landowner. I guess he's a landowner, or
That's
whoever's in
correct.
charge of it.
My name's Clayton, yeah.
And he has the right, I guess, to bring this back up at a later time if he
Right.
can work out the situation with the neighbors, whatever.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any other further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Let the record reflect that I did not vote for possible conflict of interest.
That is a vote on the amendment.
Right. Now, any other discussions on the original ordinance? Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
The last thing on planning's agenda is ordinance number 12-37, its second reading. There was also a public hearing on this as well. This is an ordinance to amend the City of Portland, Tennessee zoning map by rezoning parcels from their current zoning classification to another zoning classification on State Highway 31W in Robertson County. Move to approve.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And we've had several meetings on this with landowners, and everybody's been involved, and to my knowledge, everybody is on board with the change, there's no problems.
All right, does everybody understand what we're voting on here, so?
Do y'all remember this is the part that was annexed in and they all got turned to industrial somehow, and
Right.
we're taking them back to residential?
And then, like I say, every property owner was mailed a letter. We actually had a public meeting with the planning commission, so, and the questions that came up that night were answered on personal visits and so forth. So. Any other comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Vice Mayor, anything else?
No, sir, that's all I'm planning.
All right. Next, we'll move on to Public Works. Mr. Bratton.
Yes, Resolution 12.89 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of a Dell PowerEdge 510 enhanced server for work orders for all of the City of Portland Utility Department. Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any other comments or questions?
Did, the Public Works Superintendent come up with any other information on this item? Are you not doing software at all at this time?
Software will be second. Well, software will come when we'll all discuss it. This is something.
This is for the server only at this time.
Is this server used for something other than that software application?
If it's a, yeah,
Mr.
Chris.
McDowell, is we're gonna bring in this server and retire like an 11-year-old one.
Okay.
So I'm gonna roll them down the line and kill two birds with one stone.
Anybody else got any other questions about that? Everybody's asked, and so.
In this system, it'll be a backup, like a vault somewhere.
This server will house all your public works data. It's gonna be a SQL server. It's gonna be a big boy.
Okay.
Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I understand it, we need to buy our server regardless of whether
Sure.
we do the software or anything.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to kill two birds with one stone.
But this will be a server that if we do decide to go that route, it'll
It'll be
handle it.
ready.
Won't have to buy any other hard, but anything we do on the other will come back for future recommendation.
And it seems affordable too, because $7,900, that's,
Is this money budgeted for this?
Yes.
Is this a shared item that comes out of all the funds?
And this was on state contract for a price of $7,936. Anybody else got any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Ordinance 12-41, an ordinance authorizing a contract between the City of Portland, Tennessee and Rogers Group, Inc. for the paving from October 1 through 2012 through, October 1, 2012 through October 1, 2013 at the submitted unit calculated prices as submitted with the bid. And the mayor might explain, or I can, that although we're accepting bids, we're only gonna pave one street at this time. Is that correct, Mayor?
That's correct.
That's all we have funds to at this time.
All right, but this contract will enable, when we get funds available, we can, without having to go through the bid process, council will just approve the road, money to be spent for a certain road, and we can move on without going through the bid process for a year at a time.
So as money becomes available, we can go down the list as someone
Right.
deems appropriate and without going back to bid.
Right. We have a motion to get it on the floor.
I so move.
Have a second?
Second.
Any other comments or questions on this? So right now, all we're doing is just proving the contract.
Okay.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Ordinance 12-42, an ordinance authorizing a contract between the City of Portland, and Triple K Construction for the construction and paving on East Ninth Street. For discussion purposes, I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Comments or questions?
I guess with the only question we had the other night was, so they're gonna stand by this bid even if they don't do the court. So this bid.
Right.
Okay.
We've checked with him, and he's willing to hold it for a period of time,
Okay.
you know, not ridiculous period of time, but, you know,
Okay.
period of time to monies to come available, so.
Yeah, I may not understand this properly, I don't guess. The what we just voted on, Rogers Group had the low bid.
Right.
And this is for what paving?
The first
East
one,
Ninth Street. Rogers Group.
Rogers was
Group
ju-
bid the East Ninth Street project just astronomically high, so this was separated out.
$100,000.
the
Well,
first
that's what I'm
one,
trying to figure out, how.
the first was just general resurfacing of streets, paving of streets,
Gotcha,
and this is for Pacific project.
gotcha, okay.
Very
I was trying to
specific.
figure out how they were that much
Right.
higher, but they.
Because
were
there's gotta be some
lower
grade
than the other.
work, some gravel, curb, quite a bit of different things that got to be in this project here. So-
Gotcha.
So it's specific where the others are general resurfacing. All right, any other comments or questions? Because all we're doing at this time is approving this contract. Again, when money's come available, we present to you to go ahead and move forward with the project, so. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, Mayor. I think it concludes the public works.
All right. Next, we go on to, I apologize, I'm trying to get over a cold and sore throat, and I can't seem to shake it. Every time I turn around, the weather changes. It sets me back a day or two, so. Resolution 12-90, it's a resolution to amend Resolution 12-44 to hire a finance director for the city of Portland, where this resolution would amend that to change it to city recorder. Can we have a motion, get it on the floor for discussion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
As we all know, as we was talking about the charter change, we kind of got ahead of ourselves just a little bit and hired a finance director, which is Mr. Doug Yeagle. He was actually hired through this resolution. He's been through his physical, everything. And then when the charter change did not go forward for one vote and then a second vote, then we're back to our present charter, which our present charter allows for a city recorder to be the person in charge of the finance and the general operations of the city as far as paperwork and all the legal items and so forth. Mr. Yeagle has agreed to take this job. I am making a recommendation of this, the same as before, except starting salary of $70,000 and will increase to $72,500 upon the completion of a CMFO certification, which is the state certification that the person in finances has to have, and he can get on that as soon as he becomes a true employee of the city. So that is a recommendation, and I move forward and be open for any discussions. Mr. White.
Well, Mayor,
I know.
you know, I've got some reservations about this, and not because it's Mr. Yeakel. I know he's a good man. I know he can handle the job. But it appears that sometimes the city of Portland goes at things backwards. And, you know, we put out a job description for one person, and now we're trying to change this thing just without too much notice, without looking at it. And I think at least we ought to look at it just a little bit longer and send this maybe out to let people know that this job is open. We haven't done that. Like I said, I know Mr. Yeakel. I know he's a good person. I know he's good. He'll do a good job. And I also have some reservations about the starting salary.
I understand.
I think it's a little bit too high. In fact, I'm gonna make an amendment, and I may not get a second to it, but I think the starting salary ought to be 65 instead of 70. With that $2,500 raise if he gets those certifications, which I know he will.
So is that in form of a motion?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, we have a motion to change the starting salary from 70 to 65 with an increase of $2,500 upon completion of the CMFMO. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. We have a second now for discussion.
What are the differences in responsibilities over the initial finance director position that we created versus the city recorder position as it'll be now?
Well, you're going to have a difference of personnel to be over, be more personnel to be over. Also, you assume the full responsibility of all the paperwork associated with the city, all the legal things that involve doing the day-to-day operations of the city, where, of course, Patricia will remain as assistant city recorder and still be very involved in resolution ordinances and all those. Hopefully, this person can dwell mainly on finances with having the experience that Patricia has. But you are assuming, even though you've got an assistant, you are assuming that full responsibility of basically the operations of the city.
Was that not part of the original finance director position that we had?
Just the original finance was just dealing mainly with finances, wouldn't be involved in the resolutions, ordinances, except what dealt with finances, keeping of the minutes, things like that, and we would not have quite as many personnel to be over.
Will, this position going forward, the city recorder sits here during the meetings and does this, would that be his position now?
Well, we've talked, and I think it'd be good to just let him to be more available for discussions, all to let Patricia keep doing the minutes and so forth, and let that be part of her responsibility as it was before with Karen, but she chose to sit here. So I think the recorder really needs to be available, instead of keeping up with minutes and all, to have his mind available to be able to interject good conversation into the rest of the meeting.
What was the salary originally on the finance director?
Originally it was 65, when the past commissioner, with going to 70 upon completion of the CMFO program.
So we're talking about a $2,500
And
increase.
$2,500, right.
Not to muddy the water any, but this just came to my mind, but there's a few more restrictions on the city recorder than there was gonna be a finance director. According to our charter, they can't hold any other employment. I know at one time he had his own business. Is that still an issue?
He has sold that business.
Okay. So that wouldn't have been an issue if it was finance director,
Right.
but since it's gonna be city recorder, that became an issue.
I would really have no problem with going along with the original, what you stated was 65 and 5. But I've already made a motion that's already been seconded, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Any other comments on the amendment? I think we'll do a roll call. Ms. King. Sure. Is everybody ready to vote on the amendment only?
Just quickly, and because I think this may be the case. I mean, if it goes down to where they take the salary down and he chooses not to accept it, we're starting all over, and we're against the gun getting somebody approved to CMFO by 2 years when our last one left.
Patricia and me have started in the program. Of course, we're gonna move as fast as we can, and I encourage her to keep moving forward, and I am too, just so if something, you never know when somebody gets sick or something can happen, that we don't get caught with one person anymore. And that, of course, when it originally got started, they were pushing, and now you're seeing that other places are doing that, are sending more people since the original got.
And I think that's a good idea, and I appreciate both of y'all doing that, to be able to have someone else in that role.
Can I just make one more statement? Initially, this position didn't seem like it had enough difference in requirements to warrant the size of increase, but in looking at it again, the increase is actually only $2,500 over
Right.
what it was going to be for just finance director position, and I believe there's $2,500 worth of more responsibility in the position being city recorder and finance director. But one thing that was talked about was that his position, with him being with him being city recorder, that would take care of us needing a financial analyst as well. Is that correct?
Right.
We
He
won't
feels
have to
like
hire a
he
financial
could-
analyst.
We can do that for a period of time. Now, 2 years, he might decide that.
Right.
If we grow and stuff, hopefully we do. As Mr. Bratton said, building's gonna boom next year, I think, at the last meeting.
I hope we need 3 of them.
So, all right, any other discussion? All right, roll call, Ms. King.
Vice Mayor Maddow.
I'm gonna vote no to this because I've been doing some research, and I know that they think a lot that me and Steve vote together, it seems like, but we don't always agree on stuff. The range that I'm seeing for people that do in the population like we have in this range runs from 75 to 86,000 for that actual job, so I don't think we're too far off kilter for that pay. So,
To each his own.
I'll vote no to the amendment.
Alderman Bratton,
No.
Alderman Callis,
No.
Alderman Coker,
No.
Alderman Harvey,
No.
Alderman Menace,
No, no excuses.
Alderman White.
All right, thank you. Now we're back to the original, resolution. Any other comments or
I
questions?
voted, that's fine.
Well, you give it your best shot.
I like when somebody gets out, but still smiling. Any other comments or questions?
Affect my sleep tonight either way.
All right, we'll continue with roll call on this, Ms. King.
Vice Chairman Evans,
Yes.
Alderman Bratton,
Yes.
Alderman Callis,
Yes.
Alderman Coker,
Yes.
Alderman Harvey,
Yes.
Alderman Menace,
Yes.
Alderman White.
No.
All right, well, we, after several months now have a person, and Doug, welcome aboard. 8 o'clock in the morning, not a minute late, so.
Now that you're full-time, I won't have a stack of information requests ready for you.
Well, Doug, and we've already talked, we've been talking a little bit, hoping, I was hoping it'd go this way, and, I know everyone, it gets back to some normalcy and some things, and that one of the things that the council did want was a quarter review, and so he's already aware of that, one of the work studies right after the first quarter closes, that we're gonna start doing those, and he's already been talking about some other things. We're gonna meet department heads in the morning and try to start, where he can get some reports, and, the auditor showed up today, and, they're gonna be here, first 2 weeks of October, I believe. And so they've already started on the auditing process, so hopefully we can have a report again by the end of the year like we did last year, so.
I just question his logic. He said he sold his business because he wanted to get out of the stress. I don't understand that.
Yeah. Now the pot into the fire.
You're gonna get stressed here?
I don't know. I hope not.
And Mr. Yeagle, don't take Alderman White's vote personal. He and I both have been catching some flack from people about the pay ranges, so we're just trying to justify it.
I'm sure you'll do a good job too.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's, we're, being for some good things down the road.
Do you know about how long it'll be until you have that that certification?
11 modules you have to take, depending on the time that they offer. Some of them can be, basically tested out of, I don't have to go to them. Although my preference would be to go to all of them to make sure that we're current on everything. You can test out of something without knowing everything that's going on, so it's good to do the interaction. I'll probably, on some of them that I'm very familiar with anyway, go ahead and test out of, go to the one like the next one's debt management, which is obviously one where there's a whole lot of restrictions on, so we'll do that. But, 6 months.
And they don't, what they do, when they start the program, it's not even every month, it's like every 45 days almost. They only do one at a time to go through, so depending on where you get in the cycle, and they got, I think there's 4, I believe, they require you to attend. They won't let you test out of, I think there's, so, but we'll, like I said, Trish made, since this came up, we've only been able to do one, and then, I'm working on one now, and then we got another one, later on, so.
No.
All right, thank all of you. Next, we'll go to Resolution 12-91.
That's right, you do.
This is a resolution to transfer Brandon Roberts from part-time street department to full-time codes abatement officer for the city of Portland. When I say full-time, it means a full-time employee. As you can see in the resolution, the new one's laid out in front of me, it'll be a maximum of 20 hours per week in the codes. Still do his cable and network, and then also work for street department. I make a motion to get this on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Comments or questions?
Yeah, I had some concerns at work study that the abatement, which is basically grass and debris, that the grass in about 45 days, the Mother Nature's gonna take care of the grass, and I just didn't feel like that there was a full-time, that there was hours there for a full-time abatement officer. So I appreciate the compromise and knowing that they're still gonna work on it 20 hours a week, and he'll be available for the other departments the other 20 hours.
And this will give us back up on the codes office, because presently with part-time and and Brandon will be able to, and we're gonna work on his schedule like 2 weeks at a time, where, cause Jackie may have some things she needs to go to, be sure he covers that. And so, that way everybody knows where he's gonna be, so.
And also, just briefly, currently, we're using the county codes officer to provide for inspections, and I've talked to Brandon, and I'm encouraging him to take those classes, and I would be just, it would be wonderful if he pursued that, and when this, I keep saying, in 2013, when all this rushes, all this building comes back, you know, maybe he'll be ready to take that on, so I hope he can do that.
Yeah, he's agreeing, he's very excited. Any other comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, congratulations, Brandon. All right, Mr. Callis.
Oh, I'm sorry. We had talked a couple of weeks ago about televising the work studies, and since we talked about that, I've had more conversations with people who had hoped that would have been a done deal. And one of the things that we talked about was possibly money being a problem for the budget, but since we're bringing Brandon on as a full-time, he could take care of that role of those extra 2 meetings a month as well. And so I just wanted to bring it back up to see where we're at, if that was a holdup for anybody, or if we could move forward and televise our 2 work studies. And so I make a motion to televise both work studies and council meetings a month, and then it'll live, die, or discussion, I guess.
I
So I'll make
second the
that
motion.
We'll have a motion and have a second. Any other discussions or questions?
Is it, sometimes I get
still gonna vote
mixed
no.
in as to what we did at work studies and what we did at council meetings. Has this ever had an official vote at
No,
a
it
council
di-
meeting?
It died in work study, I believe.
You do what you want.
Okay.
That's right, it did. That's right, that's right.
I think it's ridiculous.
It might have to use the
I think it's
wordage
gonna back
reconsider then.
Where did we actually go?
I thought it was work study.
No, it was a work study, it was just a,
That's what I was thinking it was a work study, but I just wanted to make sure that if it was at a meeting, you have to use certain,
Can I ask a
you have to use a
question?
No,
certain
it
word.
wasn't. It was at a council meeting.
Let me look it up. I can
Can I ask
look
a
it up.
question?
it was just 2 weeks ago. I mean, my memory is bad, but I remember that.
I thought it was just
Mr.
the last
McDowell's got
meeting.
the floor.
It was a
Excuse me.
council.
Since Alderman Callis, I guess, was on the prevailing side of the way the vote went the last time, and he's bringing this back up, does the motion stand as it died the last time that we had amended it to allow the citizens time off the camera if they wanted to not be televised? Is that still intact the way that was? Does it bring that old motion back up with that amendment made?
Now, the motion I'm making is simply that they be televised, both work studies and council meetings. Back to that point, some of the discussion I've heard and we kind of had here that night, that just as we've had here tonight, those who had something to speak about seem to have no trouble in coming before the camera and doing it. So whether it's a council meeting or a work study, they shouldn't have no problem. And since we've talked about it, I've had several individuals say, listen, we had hoped that was going to take place. They were really appreciative of the fact that Alderman Menace brought it back up. We talked about it in the past, and because there's a lot of deliberation that goes there. I understand that maybe we have a little more freedom just to kind of toss ideas back and forth at each other when there's not a camera, and that's a good thing. But people just kind of want a little bit more information, so that's the reason why I bring it back up.
I'm guessing it would be, and please anybody correct me if I'm wrong, but we would be reconsidering resolution number 12-87.
We did have a resolution.
You know, I tend to agree with my good friend, Mr. Callis. I do think that even with tonight, we had one individual to speak, and I feel like there's some people that had, maybe if it was a more of an informal setting that wasn't on camera, we may have heard from some more people, because there are people that's uncomfortable actually, you know, in the relaxed setting of a work study where they can come not worrying about their attire, not worrying about how well they butcher the King's English. I do that quite often myself, but I've got used to butchering it, so people's used to me butchering it, but a lot of people still have is uncomfortable with that. So I still think that I'm going to oppose to it.
How did it, do you have a resolution in front of you?
I do.
Did it allow anything like Vice Mayor Morales, I can't remember.
The resolution was amended to allow time for public address. The amendment passed, but the resolution failed.
Okay. So your motion discussed was for full televisation of the whole meeting?
Correct.
Okay. So if anybody wants to amend again, and you could do so here tonight on that part of it.
I'm gonna make that amendment again because I feel like this is gonna pass, and so I'd like to have that protection for someone that may wanna speak off camera.
So you make a motion to amend that we have a period at the beginning of the meeting for anyone who'd like to address the council at the work so they could without being on TV.
If they they've got the choice whether they wanna be on
We will,
television or not.
we'll ask them before, and if they want that, then they can. All right, do we have a second to the amendment?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion on the amendment only?
I don't have a problem, like I said, we talked about this last time, as long as the people be fully aware that, names will not be changed to protect the innocent, so to speak. I mean, we'll have to discuss that item, because it'll be public matter.
Right.
And they just may choose to do their speaking off camera, but somehow we'll have to reiterate what they have said, or won't nobody know what we're talking about. If we're just talking about something where somebody's come before the camera, so I don't know how.
I don't think there's a problem with that. It's just people don't want to be on camera.
Right.
I don't think they would mind us talking about what we talked about with them. Just
And typically, we won't identify a person. We'll be talking about an issue, and they'll hear that, we'll hear their comments.
All right, any other discussion on the amendment only? I think we'll do roll call on these two, Ms. King. I think we'll have a mixture. So. All right, just do a roll call on the amendment only.
6 to 1.
Oh, this is the amendment.
I know.
Alderman Bratton,
Yes.
Alderman Callis,
Yes.
Alderman Coker,
yes.
Alderman Harvey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McDowell,
Yes.
Alderman Menace,
No.
Alderman White.
No.
Okay, so the amendment passes 4-2. Now we're back to the original resolution of televising the work studies. Any other discussions or questions? Okay, roll call, Ms. King.
Alderman Callis,
Yes.
Alderman Coker,
Yes.
Alderman Harvey,
No.
Vice Mayor McDowell,
No.
Alderman Menace,
Yes.
Alderman White.
No.
We got one more. Bratton.
You started with
Alderman
that.
Bratton,
No.
That's what caught me off guard when she called me
Yeah,
first.
that's what. All right, so it fails again, so. All right, well,
Appreciate your time.
all discussing. That's all we know, we put money in for the budget this year and then actually advertised for HR director. Had that MTS handling that. The deadline was over. He does have applications. They're going through the process of getting them all scored now and double checking with the people. Gary was wanting to know with October the 2nd, that's a Tuesday night, would be a good time to set up initial interviews. I just need to check everybody's schedule. And then maybe what times we start and try to do, what he'd like to do is bring 3 names of the highest and then maybe do all 3 of them the same night. That way it's a little bit more consistent than having spread apart.
I think that's wise.
Is any of them from Portland, just out of curiosity?
There was some applications.
I won't be able to do it on the 2nd.
From Portland. Okay, what's your?
I'm doing the PA for the middle school football
Okay,
games.
Can you email me your schedule tomorrow?
That's actually the only other day that I can't. That's the last game of the season.
Okay.
If
I've got,
I'm not
I've got
mistaken,
tomorrow
I've got
night
a-
and October the 2nd.
a sleep test that night.
Well, you can get that here at the meeting.
I've been monitoring a little bit. You want me to give you my diagnosis?
No, I don't blame you.
I tell you what, let me, get with Gary again tomorrow and try to get maybe a couple more dates, and then I'll email or we'll call all y'all next day or two and see if we can't get a common. When's the earliest that we could start? I mean, could you be 4:30?
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll try to.
Oh, wait a minute, if it's on a Tuesday, no,
Mhm.
I'm doing an after-school
Let me do a
program,
pre-check.
that's over at 4:30, so
So
4:45.
So we could start at 5, do a 5 to 6, well, that'd be,
October the 2nd, he said.
but that's not gonna work. I'd like for all of us. I'll get with Gary tomorrow and try to get you some more dates, maybe 2 or 3, and see. And then we'll either call you or try to get hold of you next day or two then. All right, does anyone else have anything?
I got supper waiting at home.
Not?
Let's go.
Adjourn.